Hey there, my name is Sage and you're watching D&D Daily. Today I got a thought rolling around my head and that thought is on communication. It is no secret that communication is king when it comes to D&D. One of the first things that needs to be aligned is what I call the desired fantasy. The desired fantasy is the fantasy the player is wanting to live. They're wanting to have that experience. There's a reason they're playing that character because they're hoping it delivers a certain fantasy. Maybe that fantasy is to be powerful and to be a mighty warrior, to go killing and be very efficient at murder and death and war. That's a fantasy. Oh, maybe it's about being a court functionary, using their political wiles to change the world the way they want it to be. Or maybe they're a sly rogue wanting to infiltrate and steal in the dead of night. There's all sorts of fantasies, hundreds of thousands. And the important thing as a player is to identify your own and communicate it directly to your DM. And as a DM, it's to suss out what the player's core fantasy is. Now, if there's a disappointed player or friction between the DM and the player, it's often because they have an unalignment on the core fantasy. And something worth noting is that these core fantasies can get pretty complicated. I had a character named Fibonacci Hazelhawk, who was a changeling who pretended to be a human to the whole party, worked for an organization named The Shadow, and had this whole complicated backstory. And my central fantasy with this character was that I wanted to change the world via my manipulations and via money. So I wanted to build businesses, super shady ones, and use that money to influence the world and bring it closer to the Shadow. But me and my DM had a disconnect because I didn't communicate this core fantasy super well. The DM saw this money I was making as potentially overpowered because I would be buying magic items far beyond our level, and I'd be buying them for the whole team. So he wanted to tame that money I was earning, and I wanted more money to buy, get more houses and get more trade routes and get more gambling houses and so on and so forth. And because of that disconnect, that character was frustrating for both me and the DM. When it's like, if we had just communicated, that could have worked itself out easily, but we didn't have the words. It wasn't until after everything went down and the character and it kind of broke apart that it was like, okay, these are the words that we needed to say before all that happened. So that's just my personal experience about the importance of the core fantasy. And now, having learned that, I'm playing the true Beastmaster in my games. His name is Keeper, and the core fantasy I'm going for is to use animals in very creative ways. So I've asked the DM, hey, include animals in some of our situations just as variables. You don't have to come up with a plan for them, but maybe include some chickens, out in the yard, or maybe include a rhinoceros that has been caged, whatever, sky's the limit. I just would like that to be a variable because the fantasy I'm going for is to be like a very clever Beastmaster where me and animals work together to solve situations in very unique ways. There's something that rhymed with comments. I did in one of my last videos. I want to include it on every one, but I don't remember. Anyways, that's a thought that's been rolling around in my head. What do you think of my thought? Let me know in the comments down below. What would you do to improve it? We are D&D Daily. We release new D&D content every single day, so if that's interesting to you, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.